welcome to Centre Court. Thanks to OMF, Australian designed and owned. I'm Bianca Chatfield, and of course joining me at the desk, as usual, Maddie Brown. It was a big round 10, Maddie.
It was. I mean, I've been talking about how close the games have been, but this week we saw some blowouts.
And big things happening on the court, big things happening off the court, and we'll make sure we try and cover as much of that off as we can. It's now time to get to the weekend that was, all thanks to OMF. Upgrade your sleep game with a quality mattress from Australian designed and owned OMF. Okay, the first game we're going to talk about, the Giants and the Lightning. You probably agree this game could have gone any way, really.
Absolutely, it could have. I mean, obviously, you look at those quarter-by-quarter scores and you see that it was very, very close, really evenly matched. Both probably sitting, in that 5th to 4th position. Who's going to take it? Can Giants come into the final? Can they not? My biggest thing is just the weight of the world. When you look at Steph Wood, you see her trying to perform week in, week out, and she's doing so much. The scariest thing for them was Cara Koenig coming off with a knee injury, so hopefully she's all right there. But the Lightning just fell away in the second half. They try and keep their run a little bit too late sometimes, so it'd be great to see them put the pressure on a little bit earlier. But Amy Parmenter, for me, 5 games, 3 intercepts, she absolutely shone.
And can you believe that was the closest match of the round?
I know.
We're used to so many 1-goal wins all the time, and that was the closest one we had. Then we went to the Vixens and the Thunderbirds, which both of we covered for Fox Netball, and an enormous performance, I think, by the Vixens.
Absolutely. I think everyone had this touted as the game of the round, but it really fell short of that, didn't it? You look at, once again, those scores. Thunderbirds only scoring 25 in 3 quarters of netball, but off the back of an outstanding performance of Emily Mannix in goal defence. We saw her go to goalkeeper, moving all the way around, but also Liz Watson, for me, back in centre. She's just a natural in that position, and for once I think we saw the strength of the Vixens, the fact that they've even got more in their bag. So they usually start off strong, but they are coming home like a fire train.
Oh, they are. And another team who have been performing so well, especially the back end of the season, is the Swifts. They had a huge dominant performance over the Magpies. This one's a hard one to judge, isn't it? Because we know the Magpies have got so much going on. It'd be really hard to take the court for them right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, we talked about it even during the week, I think, in lots of different media platforms. But, how are they going to come into this game? The Magpies, how are they going to perform? They looked like they were trying to generate this united front and try and play for something bigger. But it's been a really hard week for them. And for the Swifts, credit to them, they continued to obviously put the foot down when they needed to. They've had some really, really close wins. So for them, it's probably a really good confidence boost to where they sit. They rotated a lot of different combinations, especially through that attack end. So it's interesting to see how these top 4 teams that know they're going to be there for finals are finishing off these round games to prepare themselves in every way they possibly can to make sure that they're hitting that premiership title.
Yes, and another team who is in the top 4 who had an incredibly dominant performance. 97 points for the West Coast Fever. The biggest score we've ever seen in Suncorp Super Netball. They were trying their hardest to get to the 100. They couldn't quite get it, but that was just a brilliant performance. The Fever, they're back.
Oh, they are. And I mean, once again, those quarter scores, hitting that 20-plus mark is just so dominating. Unfortunately for the Firebirds, they're still hitting a great score, and usually that scoreline would be quite competitive within the league, but they just didn't have the answers, and every time they try something, Fever would come back a little bit stronger, a little bit harder, and show their dominance once again. So I think Fever heard us last week saying, are they still title contenders? The answer is a hell yes.
Yes, they might have had their little slump, and I feel like they're going to come back bigger, stronger and tougher for every other team out there to come up against them. Let's take a quick look at the ladder. If you haven't been keeping a close eye on it, the top 4 now. Thunderbirds, Swifts, Fever, Vixens. I mean, it's pretty much locked away. Do the Giants have a chance? I don't know. Mathematically, maybe.
Oh, potentially, and that's only because of who they have in the next couple of rounds. They obviously have the 3 top 4. They have Swifts, Fever and Vixens coming up. So if they can maybe knock off 1, 2 or 3 of them, maybe they'll push for a 4th spot. But I think that top 4 is pretty secure because those teams are showing their dominance.
Well, that was the weekend that was, all thanks to OMF, Australian designed and owned. And of course, we get to this moment of the show and it's on to Maddies Minute, where I just throw it over to you, Maddie.
Oh, gosh. Sometimes I find it hard to go, what do we got to talk to? Because there's so many things to talk about in netball. But I want to talk about the super shot. There were two outstanding performances. I mean, we had the top of 10 super shots was the record. But Sasha Glasgow, have a look at those stats. 14 out of 20. And when your team's winning by over 30 points and you're scoring 28 in just the 2-point super shot, incredible. Helen Housby, the last, I think, 3 weeks, she's been that 9-10. So what I love about the super shot, and I know it's, hotly contended and, controversial, but I love it for the fact that, one, we've seen really close games. We've seen blowout games, obviously, this round, but I'm loving the strategies from the teams. They're really implementing how we're going to work the 10 minutes, how we're going to work the 5, what if we're down, what if we're up, how do we push ahead, how do we bring the deficit back? So those top teams that are really utilising their bench and all their combinations, I love to see the super shot, and I'm all for it. So hats off to those queens that are shooting outstanding numbers.
The queens, and look at you with 2 seconds to spare. Absolutely love it. And I, from a defensive point of view, love the tactics that come in to try and stop that. And I think come the final series, we're going to see so much more of that tactically from a lot of the defenders out there on court. Okay. Now, I've just got to take a breath because now I'm in the hot seat. It's our time for Take 5. And Maddie, you've got some questions to throw at me.
I do. My first one to you is the Vixens. Let's talk about them. We were both at that game. They are in some damaging form. And I think previously we've probably gone, they have a plan A. Do they have a plan B? What were your thoughts on where they sit and what they produced on the weekend?
It has been a really topsy-turvy season for the Vixens. And, I mean, they're a classy outfit with who they have out there on court, but they've been managed to ride out so much of it. They can win by one. They can win controversially with that centre pass issue and they just got on with it. They can also win ugly. They can win where they absolutely demoralise a team like they did on the weekend. To be honest, my kind of thoughts on the Vixens have gone up and I've been like, oh yeah, maybe they can make it. Then they've been down and you think, oh, I don't know if they're going to be able to match it against the tough teams. But the way they played against the Thunderbirds, especially the last few weeks, I really feel there's many options for them. There's many options for Simone McInnes to use the bench and she's using it more smartly this year than what we've probably seen. So stand by, I think, because the Vixens are really going to come out strong in the finals. And Rani Samuson has now been declared completely out for the season, so we won't see her back in Suncorp Super Netball at all in 2023. So Kim Borgia, I assume, will remain in that position, even though she's only played a minute.
But you never know.
She's there if they need her.
Yep. Second one, we've got the Thunderbirds. They had obviously, as you said, a demoralising loss against the Vixens. But do you think that's a good, it's actually a win as a loss that they've had that kind of bit of a wake-up call reality check now before it gets closer to finals? Where do you think they sit with that loss?
I think the Thunderbirds probably needed that. Not that they needed it to be so significant, but I think without Tipper Dwan and without Hannah Petty, players who we thought that they could probably cover, we realised how versatile their team is when they're all healthy, strong and can get out there on court. For me, the Thunderbirds, I think they've just been hitting a bit of a flat spot, and you've seen that in their past few performances. Yes, they've got wins, but they haven't been convincing. So they needed that. I think it's only going to set them up to be hungrier to get going for when this stuff really counts at the end of the season.
Now, those two teams that we've just talked about, there's some huge clashes coming into round 11 this week. The top 4 play off against each other. We've obviously got the Fever taking on the Thunderbirds in Adelaide and the Swifts coming down to John Cain Arena taking on the Vixens. We talked about top of the table clashes and they've actually fallen short, but these two matches, how important do you think they are for all 4 teams and where they might finish for a home final?
This is finals. For me, I think all the teams in the top 4 are preparing for this week to be the finals and the first round of the finals. They are going to go out so strong to try and win this. The Fever and the Thunderbirds, to me, the Fever, I think, will... I don't think the Thunderbirds are going to have enough to turn it around to beat Fever. I think the Fever are going to be super strong. They are going to want to absolutely dominate, and I worry for Thunderbirds how they mentally might cope with what Fever are going to throw at them. On the flip side, when we come up against Swifts and Vixens, we've got that game for Fox Netball, and the Swifts are going to be really hard to beat. The Swifts, to me, play very similar to the Vixens. We talk about that all the time, but I just feel like the Swifts have it over the Vixens, and the Vixens are going to really want to win it for it to be a confidence boost. But I think if anyone's going to break the hoodoo at John Cain Arena, it will be the Swifts this weekend.
Yeah. What
do you think?
Yeah, no, well, I think the Vixens, I think they're going to hold down the fortress of John Cain Arena, so I'm going to pick the Vix in that one. 2024, obviously, for the Giants is probably where they're looking to. They may be able to make finals, but we've seen the induction of like Matisse Leatherborough this year doing so well. Do you think that's a head start for them? Because we actually saw Giants sign their same 10 last year for this year very, very quickly. I think they'd want some changes for next year, but do you think maybe with the potential of, you know, Harton being there, not being there, where do you think that sits for them in 2024?
I think Giants are getting a huge head start on other teams. They're working out their goaling end. If they have Harton, huge bonus. If they don't, they've got Leatherborough, who's getting all this incredible experience, and she's getting full games. And to me, that's the most important part. It's not bringing a player on and off. That's helpful for impact, but it doesn't help them grow as a player. So for her, I think it's brilliant. She's out there on court. She's forming a great combination with Dwyer. She's also got Maddie Hay feeding her, Jamie Lee Price. They're working together well. So I think this is a really smart play by the Giants. And even if Harton can come back this season, I think she's smarter just to rest that leg, get herself ready to go potentially for next year. But Leatherborough will be strong, fitter, and will just have that intensity that she can match it as soon as they're going to use her next season.
We really are probably seeing the future of the Giants out in that attacking lineup. Finally, the Magpies, huge week for them.
You've had a huge week talking all about it.
I know, but where to from here, do you think, for the club, for the players, and what that means even for the league?
Look, I think it's a really sad situation for the Magpies. I think it's really tough on the playing group, the staff, and all we can do from the outside is speculate what we think might happen, and I don't think that's helpful for them either. I think I really hope the Netball Australia and the Players Association are doing everything they can to throw their support around this group. I don't even know how they're getting out on court each week. I think we're going to see that's going to be harder and harder. But I think Magpies need to make a decision ASAP from a club perspective, if they're in or out. The longer this goes on without a decision, the harder it's going to be for everyone. And in terms of what happens next, I really hope there is another team in Victoria. I think it's something that if it's a Victorian team, there needs to be some kind of collaboration, partnership with Netball Victoria to like all the things you spoke about during the week, how hard it's been to start up a foundation club without that connection with Netball Victoria. I think it might not financially be viable for Netball Victoria right now, but at least have some kind of partnership with them. And move out of Melbourne and, Geelong, home girl right here.
Yes.
But I think have a team,
I think it's the way to go.
Somewhere like Geelong where they can own their area and their zone, and that's somewhere they can grow not just the elite team but also grassroots. And think about players coming in as well. If you're coming in to play for a club in Victoria, you would want to be in Melbourne, and if you're not in Melbourne, where else would you want to be? And that's probably down in Geelong, where you can enjoy all of the Great Ocean Road and everything that comes with it. Because that's important for players too, to move to a place that they want to live and that they want to be a part of the community. So I think Geelong, for me, would be the answer. But I have no research, understanding, backing financially how that's going to happen. I just think that seems to be the smartest option, or Tassie, who we know are somewhat ready to go.
Well, there's big things for, I think, the league. I think definitely for, obviously, the club. And word on the street is hopefully they'll know in about 3 weeks' time from Netball Australia exactly what the move is. It's uncertain times for a lot of people involved, so hopefully we can get it nailed and done as soon as possible, because there's bigger things in netball to come.
Yes, and let us know your thoughts on it too. The Magpies. If the Magpies aren't with us next season, where should their team be? Now, you can see our socials on the screen right now. Make sure you let us know. Tweet us, comment on Facebook, let us know what you think, because we want to hear all your thoughts. That's Centre Court for another week. All thanks to OMF Australian Design & Own. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back again next week.